Malta reacts in disgust at crowd egging man on to commit suicide. Woman who threatened PN activist Eve Borch-Bonello found guilty of hate speech. And Labour MP says Malta should make it mandatory for every child to attend a sports club. All this and more on Lovin Daily. Good evening, Malta and Gozo, and welcome to another episode of Lovin Daily. My name is Yannick. With me is Baldacchino, and we're going to be running you through today's main stories, starting with the story of the day about how Malta has reacted in disgust at the actions of a few people in Valletta today who, upon seeing a man contemplating suicide, felt that the most appropriate response was to egg him on. So the incident happened this morning, as many of you probably know, when this man was spotted at the edge of the Valletta bastions, looking like he was going to jump. As pictures emerged of the man and started doing rounds online, the Times of Malta published a video showing a crowd of people basically shouting at the man, egging him on, saying things like, get it over and done with, hurry up and do it, we have to get back to work, and a lot of other horrible comments. The video obviously shocked many people and has been condemned by pretty much everyone online. It shows how mindful we should be of the way we speak to people and how we approach these cases. In any circumstance, especially in this case when this man was clearly in a very vulnerable state, contemplating suicide. Luckily, he was talked out of it. Psychiatrist Mark Schwirep talked him out of it in an hour-long negotiation. Commenting on the story after, he stressed the importance of all emergency services being equipped with crisis resolution teams for such cases. Quite shocking, but surprising or not?
First of all, very well done to the healthcare workers out there and the emergency services for being on site for this man, helping him out, talking him down, and hopefully he'll be on to receive the healthcare that he so very well deserves and needs. I'm going to be very honest, I did not watch the video. I have no interest in watching the video myself. Not really in the mood to get mad at the general populace on a Friday evening, and as someone who's had issues with mental health in the past, not really something I want to get into. I mean, I want to say I'm surprised, but I'm not. It's no wonder that the national taboo surrounding mental health still exists, right? We're always talking about wanting people to go out there and seek the help that they want, right? And then we see these things happen. It's not only shocking, it's disappointing, to say the least, I also wanted to touch a bit upon the nature of the situation, right? Someone in the comment section of one of the videos said, maybe this is a mental health service issue. It is absolutely not a mental health service issue. This is an educational issue. I think we need to begin to understand mental health is a facet of your health just like any other, and to pretend it is not or treat it separately is only going to be damaging to you and those around you. I'm glad everyone from various political facets of the political spectrum spoke out, people from different walks of life, content creators, personalities and health professionals alike. Don't forget, guys, if you ever need to talk to someone, there's the helpline 179. You can also reach out online at kellimni.com. Which brings us to the second story of the day. We'll be looking at the woman who threatened PN activist Eve Borch-Bonello. She's been found guilty of hate speech, has received a €1,600 fine and a suspended prison sentence of 6 months for 4 years. Now, a bit of background about the story. On social media, a couple of years ago, Eve Borch-Bonello had given a speech following the arrest of Jorgen Fenech. This is around 2019. She was 16 years old at the time. Underneath this video, where Borch-Bonello referred to then Prime Minister Joseph Muscat as being someone who stole her future. The woman left a comment, which I am not going to translate word for word, but in essence, she said, "As long as I'm alive, I won't leave you in peace, not even in your grave, as I'll shake it every day. I hate you and everyone around you so much." Thoughts?
I mean, definitely a threat. With these cases, I always find myself torn between kind of two thoughts. One is, how this is an unacceptable way of engaging with someone online.
Yeah.
On the other hand, sometimes I say, maybe there's a level of ignorance, people don't know, get overly emotional, maybe in some cases aren't even sure who can see what they're posting. But I mean, as we said, in this case, it's a very clear threat. It's very clearly intended to scare Eve. You have to also sort of take account of the fact that she was 16 at the time. So kind of when you're an adult, especially, kind of seeing someone who is that young and writing stuff like that, it's unacceptable. I mean, hopefully, we're seeing the police take action on more of these cases. So hopefully we can one day learn how to interact with one another online without being too offensive, which I think is something that this country desperately needs.
Yeah.
On to our third story. Labour MP Jean-Claude Micallef has proposed making it mandatory for every child to join a sports club as a means of improving fitness and wellness in the country. So his argument is basically that, in the same way that parents are obliged to send their kids to school and must pay a fine if they don't, that a similar requirement be introduced for parents to send their kids to a sports club. And the initiative, he said, would help create a new economy, which he said the country desperately needs. But it would also improve Malta's performance in various sports competitions. Speaking in Parliament, Micallef also called for a small tax to be imposed on high-fat foods, with proceeds going directly to helping the sports sector. He even mentioned, investment in sports education and other similar areas. He said that, this would make sports more sustainable, while also discouraging a lifestyle that can lead to illness. Ultimately, he stressed that kind of what was needed was for the country to have the political direction required for it to start to excel at sports and really make sports a priority. While I get kind of where he's coming from, I do tend to feel that when something is pushed onto the population like this, it might not necessarily have the desired results. In fact, I can imagine a lot of children going to these sports clubs reluctantly, either wasting time, trying to get a sick note. So while we should definitely be aiming for having as many kids in sports clubs as possible, ultimately I think it needs to be through more of an incentive than a deterrent.
Exactly. Like, I'm of two minds about this argument that the MP is presenting. Obviously, on a very superficial level, it's, sports equals health, therefore good. But I think there's a bit more nuance to the whole idea, right? There are other facets to consider within this issue of sports and outside of sports as well, relating to the context of wellness, right? Are these, why sports clubs? Why are we not looking at the sports programs we have in place? And why are we not treating sports as a, legitimate profession, like from the get-go, in terms of the management of sports currently? Are we considering people of different abilities? What constitutes sports? Is it the usual football, basketball, whatever? Or are we also considering other forms of physical activity whereby students can feel, encouraged to participate in sports and physical activity? Let's also consider the mental well-being of these children within the school environment, right? They're already facing lots of pressures from all points, and then having sports and the expectation on them to be participating in a sports put on them as well. I just think that there needs to be a bit more long-term consideration for such a project to occur. Moving on to our fourth story of the day, quick one for you guys coming out of St. Julian's. Earlier this afternoon, a fire broke out at Portomoso Tower on the 8th floor. No one was injured, everyone was evacuated, there were a few fire engines on site, and we'll be giving you more details as we get them, which you can find on lovinmalta.com. Anything you want to add, Yannick?
No, it was quite... Actually, when I saw it, when I saw all the people, the tower was evacuated, all the people outside, I did think, this is something probably we're going to have to prepare ourselves more with all the high-rise buildings coming up. It's not your standard fire for the Civil Protection Department to deal with, and shows the need for even investment, in equipment, which has happened a couple of years back. The CPD did invest in this sort of equipment, but it's a totally different type of situation for them to deal with.
Yes.
So it's hopefully it won't happen too often going forward.
Exactly.
On to our final story. Labour MP Joe Mizzi gave an impassioned speech in Parliament this week in which he flagged several small but consistently frustrating problems facing people in the 2nd District. Basically, was speaking during parliamentary adjournment where he said, people often stop me in the street to complain. Mizzi was a minister, but has been a backbench MP for the last year and a half or so. He said, despite the fact that he was no longer a minister, people often walk up to him and point out issues. One such problem, he said, was the fact that the public toilets in Birgu are closed on the 2 days that the Monty market sets up, so on Tuesday and Sunday. And basically, Mizzi was saying, how it's unacceptable for him to have to walk through the place and see people literally urinating against a tree, he basically questioned how it is possible that in 2021 we are unable to keep public toilets open. It appears that the problem is the fact that the local council can't afford to have someone to guard the toilet and prevent vandalism. Mm-hmm. And Mizzi said, obviously, I get that that's a consideration, but we've solved many problems in this country. Surely there's a way of solving this issue. He obviously urged anyone responsible to sort it out as quickly as possible. He also mentioned other issues like the fact that fishmonger sets up right beneath a block of apartments. He was saying, the smell is literally unbearable, and with a bit of planning, it could be moved to a different location. He also flagged the infrastructure works on Zabbar on a road which he very often drives through, which he said, the work has been pending for ages. There's no proper traffic management, and it's actually quite dangerous. It was an interesting speech because we don't often see MPs, especially from the government side, taking the government to task over such issues. Normally the narrative we're used to hearing is if you're a government MP, then everything is perfect. If you're an opposition MP, everything is terrible. So it was quite refreshing to see Joe Mizzi criticizing his own government, which is ultimately what the job of an MP should be. I mean, let's not forget that MPs are there to represent people, to hold government to account, and to bring to the fore issues that are very important to their constituents.
Yeah. I mean, agreed. You can, in fact, criticize someone while still respecting that particular person and body. I feel it also touches upon local government and the amount of support and funding that they receive. So that might also be a discussion which might be triggered by this situation. That brings us to the end of this episode. Everyone, thank you very much for watching. Before you guys go, we have the Love Amulet campaign going on right now. If you guys want to participate, we're collecting gifts for those in need from now until the 17th of December. There is 7 different gift boxes that you can choose from. It's a great initiative that you can do with your family and your friends. You can drop off your gift boxes for the Love Amulet challenge at various various Atlas Insurance outlets, or you can drop them off right here at the Lovin Malta offices. Thank you very much for watching, everyone. Have a great weekend and have an evening full of lovin'.